Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite books. It's this book called Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I saw this and I was like, you know what? There are just so many unhealthy habits in my life and I would really love to understand them better in order to really understand what's going on. And I think I picked this up last year, late last year or early this year. And my main problem at the time was that I was having serious panic attacks and I just couldn't understand what was happening. And on top of that, I had insomnia. In order to sleep, I basically became a wineaholic because I just couldn't sleep without wine. I needed something that will lower kind of like how restless I was. And funny enough, every morning I would either have a Coke or a Red Bull. I'm actually so fortunate that I didn't end up in hospital due to Red Bull because I was consuming like copious amounts of Red Bull. And on top of that, they had this amazing coconut flavor. It's to die for. Anyway, so when I picked this book up, the main thing that I wanted it for, obviously, it was just to understand how habits work, because I feel like I formed a very unhealthy habit by depending on all these alternative substances in order to keep my body going and to make sure that I can get through the day. I think in South Africa we do have quite a high number of functioning alcoholics, and to be honest, I used to be very judgmental about alcoholism and people who just, because I didn't grow up around it. My mother didn't drink, my father didn't drink, I didn't drink for a really long time, and once I started, I feel like I kind of connected it to the fact that I wasn't sleeping. And at first I thought it was just enjoyment because I've always wanted to try wine and but without the social pressure of like high school or varsity, etc. And then I ended up becoming very dependent on it because of the fact that I needed to sleep in order for me to be able to work. So there's just a lot that has to do with that, but yeah, so that's basically how I found this book to be quite helpful. So today I'm actually only going to be doing a review of the first 3 chapters. I think it's something that you really need to get if you want to understand human behavior, which is something that I'm quite passionate about. And I think that for the average person, in terms of if you don't like reading books, I think even if you read the first 3 chapters, so many things will just make sense. I think you'll understand yourself more, and there's just so many things that are going to be aha moments that might not have been clear before. So the book itself is actually divided into 3 parts. The first part is the habits of individuals, and then the second part is the habits of successful organizations, and then the third part is habits of societies. Like I said, I think we are all individuals, but we also live within a society. So I feel like in order for you to understand how you function and how other people function, it's vital that you read the entire book. But if you just only want to understand yourself and understand why you do the things that you do, the first 3 chapters are important. And I really think that in terms of how you can manage your mental health and just understand how you function, for me it's like knowledge is power. So I feel like as long as you understand why you do certain things that you do, you have a bigger chance of making different choices or actually transforming how you look at things. So the first chapter is called the habit loop, and it talks about how the habit loop works. The second part is the craving brain, so basically how craving works and also how you can create new habits. And the third part is the golden rule of habit change. So I'm only going to do the first 3, but mostly the first 2, so that we understand exactly how we form habits. So basically in the book itself, he talks about the habit loop, and it works in 3 steps. The first thing is the cue, basically the thing that triggers a habit. And then the second thing is called the routine, basically like what you do once you've been triggered. And then the last one is your reward. So for example, with me, the cue was always I need to sleep. yeah, I need to sleep or I'm stressed out. Like, I think those two were a very powerful combination. And then the second one, the routine, was obviously having a glass of wine only with the hope of that you'll calm down your nerves, and then having 2 or 3 glasses. And then the reward was my body finally felt at a relaxed enough state in order for me to actually attempt to sleep. So it's like a 3-step loop, and it's something that you keep on doing over and over. That's why it's called a habit. Like, it started becoming like an everyday thing, but prior to that it was mostly like I'm stressed out, you know, and I needed to sleep, and then I'll have a glass or 2 of wine, and then after that I'll be able to finally put my thoughts into something controllable and actually fall asleep. There's lots of things that he said in terms of how the habit loop works. Again, it's something that you have to read, but one of the important things that he highlighted was that it takes quite a long time to start the cue or to form that trigger, but it always starts in the same way. For example, I think something specific to me would be the second I got home, I felt like, okay, I needed a glass of wine now. So literally just being aware that I'm entering home, like, and at that time my home was really a mixed pot for stress for me, because I feel like it's when I would stop being in work mode and start being in stress mode. Like, I don't know like how I made that transition, but it was always the same. I think initially it was just like, wow, this is like something that is making me feel relaxed, etc, etc, etc. And then all the time when I felt hypertension or hyper stress, it was kind of like my go-to answer. So then the second thing is the routine. So your routine can be physical, mental, or emotional. Some people would sleep, some people would cry, and that's kind of like the routine part of it. It also says that it can be mental. So in the mental space, I feel like the people react differently. Some people would act out. Maybe they'll literally isolate themselves and then really take that time to allow themselves to feel bad about themselves. And I know it's something that happens internally, but you can see it outwardly as well. Like, you'll find that they withdraw from most social gatherings or social activities. You'll find that they just have a different response to things, like in terms of a conversation. You'll find that they drop off the face of the earth in terms of social media, like everything is just closed off. They can sometimes even start hanging out with people who do like to socialize. Like, I think that kind of makes them forget like what they are going through. It might seem like a physical symptom, but it's actually mental. Like, they don't want to be alone with their own thoughts, and that is very scary because the people that they are partying with might not even know what's going on. You have people who cut themselves. So I feel like those are all under the mental routine kind of umbrella. The emotional one can be anything. It can be crying, it can be self-loathing. Most people don't understand self-loathing. They just don't, because it's a very, very dark kind of like exercise that you do without even knowing, where you literally hate yourself, you hate your life, you hate your family, you hate your circumstances, you hate everything and everyone around you. And then the third one is reward. The reward, just like any reward, I mean, if you do something and you get a prize out of it, you would do anything to get that prize back, or not get the prize back, to get the prize again. So just like the reward of a good kind, you also have like habitual rewards. For example, if let's say my reward was sleeping, that was a good enough reward for me because of the fact that it's something that I really, really wanted, and it's something that I feel like I had earned. So here in the book it says that the reward helps the brain figure out if the loop is worth remembering in the future. That's like such a powerful thing, because your brain automatically does this, where it decides that, okay, seeing that you had a good night's rest now, I need to remember this because this is how I'm gonna get a good night's rest again. So for example, with abusive men, I feel like that's also quite a touchy subject, because I feel like people who are abusive are mentally ill because they suffer from some kind of post-traumatic distress order, or they have a kind of like unhealthy focus with control. So for example, if let's say a guy hits a girl solely for the purpose of the girl listening to him, obeying him. If she does, his brain will think that this is something worth remembering because it's working. Like, she's finally listening to me, so I need to remember this thing again. That's why offenses keep happening, because of the fact that their brains trick them into thinking that it's a habit loop that works. Something important that he also wrote was that when a habit emerges, the brain stops participating, which is exactly like the whole point of a habit, because it's like a learning curve. You don't want to keep remembering how an Excel spreadsheet works, or how Word works, or how the internet works. So as soon as you learn something the first time, your brain stops participating in learning more about that particular thing, because now, based on habit, you know how it works. And then it's not exactly set in stone. For example, if you're an abuser now, it's not to say that you'll always be an abuser, but the abuser must be the one who fully participates in trying to change that particular thing. You need to actively want to change a habit if you believe that a habit is bad for you. The problem that he highlighted that was so crucial for me is that he said that the brain doesn't know the difference between a good and a bad habit. All the brain does is create the habits. So if you feed your brain a bad habit, it doesn't have those safeguards to be like, wow, this is bad, let me stop this. It just recognizes those three things, which are trigger or cue, routine, reward. And all things have rewards or consequences. To finish off, like he said, that since we don't often recognize the patterns as they grow, we are blind to our ability to control them. And I think that is so true. If you knew what caused it, you have a better chance of making different choices. In the book, they talk about this girl who basically everything that could go wrong in her life went wrong. And one day, when literally the worst of the worst happened on top of everything, she decided to change her life completely. And in doing that, she decided that she's gonna start by changing one habit. And for her, it was to stop smoking. And slowly but surely, she literally started replacing all her old habits with new, healthier habits. And she started having goals and plans for the future. And by doing so, she literally got her life back. Like, she got out of debt, she lost weight, she got a good job. She just started by one very strong addictive habit and literally replicated that effect over her life. And they said they studied her for years, and I feel like with us, like, we can just be so set in stone in our habits, like in terms of once you decide that you're a failure, that's exactly what you're gonna be. I hope that this habit loop helps you to figure out exactly what is wrong. Did it work immediately? No. But I feel like because I have the knowledge, I'm able to make better decisions, or understand that I can actually achieve something because of the fact that I know that this is how the body works. So I really hope that that's what's coming across in this review, and I really hope that you guys, learn something in terms of how habits work. But I would really recommend that you check out this book. I think it's still available at some bookshops. You'll be really fascinated about how things work. Like, I feel like if you're not into studies and stuff, you might find it hard, but there's a lot of like practical examples that he's using based on people like us today, especially the study that he does about how habits work in companies. Oh my gosh, it was so fascinating. He talks about Target, he talks about Starbucks. Like, those were amazing case studies, and I couldn't recommend this book enough. So get it as soon as you can, so you can learn more about habits. So that is the end of this discussion about habits. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, or share it with a friend who is still struggling to understand habits and why they do the things that they do. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.